Honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on this episode of Barnstable Today. I'm Sarah Colvin. It's Tuesday, January 17th, 2012. Monday was Martin Luther King Day, and in Wellfleet, nearly 200 people gathered to march along Main Street and celebrate at Preservation Hall. Cape and Island State Senator Dan Wolf was there. He talked about his experience on this morning's Barnstable This Morning.
When you look at it, it's one of the great oratory moments in the history of the United States, in my opinion. It builds the way he delivers it, the message, the time in our history that it was made. It's just a very, very powerful moment. And in that church especially, which really, to me is a testament of a community coming together and working hard to define itself and with a very forward-looking vision. It was a great place to be watching the speech as well. One of the pastors at the Universalist Unitarian Church in Provincetown actually knew Dr. King and marched in Selma those many years ago, and he gave a very moving speech about what that experience is like. There was a couple of readings from Martin Luther King's speeches done by a cast of Raisin in the Sun, which is a production which is opening in Provincetown later in the month. And then, of course, I spoke and Sarah Peake spoke as well. So it was really a remarkable couple of hours.
Surely, Dan, and really taking a look at Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, as you said, really one of the most powerful and poignant moments in American history. And of course, the message still rings true today. So really, and I think what we need to understand and take from that speech is not only was it relevant back when Dr. King delivered it, but it's something that we need to remember and work to honor really every day, not just in the cold months of January, but also really throughout the year. So talk to me a little bit about how we as individuals and even our elected officials can work to ensure that Dr. King's dream stays alive.
Well, one of the things that struck me about that speech is, there's a couple of memorable moments which we continually hear, and they are powerful moments. The part where he talks about I have a dream, which is the famous part. And then, of course, when he goes across the United States and says, let freedom ring, from the mountaintop, let freedom ring, and, works his way across the country. That's an amazing moment. But earlier in the speech, something that is still sort of echoing in my mind is he used the comment of fierce urgency of now. And as I sat there listening to the speech and heard him talk about a fierce urgency of now, he was specifically talking at that moment in the speech about race relations and the civil rights movement. But Dr. King, as he evolved in his career, really became more and more focused on the anti-war movement that was really growing through the 60s, but even more so on economic justice and the relationship between our economic system and our political system, and how we use our economic system to really deliver a promise in the future that it really involves everybody. And when I got up to speak, I sort of had planned a few words in advance, but I jettisoned what I was going to talk about because the comment fierce urgency of now is just so relevant, Sarah. And talking about, for example, the fact that the malnutrition of our youth in the United States is over 20%. More than 20% of the youth in this country are living below the poverty level. More than 52 million Americans still do not have health insurance in the United States of America. The top 400 people, and what I said as I looked out in the press hall yesterday, there were about 200 people there. And as I pointed out to the people there, twice the number of people at that gathering yesterday, 400 people, control as much wealth as a half of the United States population, 155 million people. And all of I could go on and on. The fact that the women's movement, while making progress, still women only earn 77 cents on the dollar. The fact that in our minority neighborhoods, especially our urban minority neighborhoods, the unemployment rate is over 25% in many of those neighborhoods. You could just go, I could go on for an hour about the fierce urgency of now and how it's relevant now. And what I like about it is yesterday's celebration was so much about the celebration and remembrance of Dr. King, but it's really sort of about the fierce urgency of now. And I think that would be something that Dr. King would appreciate. I think as much as he was somebody who liked to look back and celebrate the past, and build a future on the shoulders of those who participated in a great past. He would want to be talking about the fierce urgency of now in this day and age.
Well, Dan, I think you're right. I think that really is what it's all about. And when we look back at Dr. King's, not only that speech, but really all of his work, it's not just about looking back at what was accomplished then. It's how you can take those words and that movement and bring it into today.
Well, and there really are, you and I have spent a lot of time in the past discussing all of those different facets: economic justice, good education for everybody, how we apply the wealth of the wealthiest country in the history of the planet towards building a brighter future, the whole issue of generational responsibility, and all of those issues resonate certainly on Martin Luther King Day, but hopefully on every day of the year.
Indeed, and again, really fierce urgency of now. If you think about that and think about how it's relevant, as you said, to all the issues that we're facing today, definitely something worth thinking about.
Well, we've talked about the Occupy movement, and I know that there certainly have been a lot of people out there in the media, you not included, but who are trying to discredit that movement. And I think that movement is a reflection of the fierce urgency of now. I think, when you see people deciding to live in tents in freezing weather in urban and suburban areas because of their feeling of that fierce urgency of now, my hope is that momentum continues. And as you and I have said before, this is not about left and right. It's not about Democratic and Republican. It's about top and bottom. And it is about, sort of delivering on the promise of America in a much more just way.
And making your voice be heard for a cause that means much to you. And of course, that's again something we can take away from Dr. King, a matter of making your voice heard for a cause you believe in and showing that your voice can be heard to make change.
Well, I'm driving to Boston today with the great Representative Cleon Turner, who now represents a portion of Barnstable, your watching audience. And, he and I have the challenge of translating the message of yesterday into legislation of today and tomorrow. And that's our challenge because, as you and I have talked about before, government right now, given the fierce urgency of now, government needs to be more activist. It needs to have its foot on the accelerator, trying to bring around the change that we need. And again, seizing on the opportunities that we've all created. I fear sometimes that our discussions are too much on the negative and not on the positive, and there's just so much opportunities there to do so many great things going forward.
Indeed, Dan, and really, of course, legislation is only one piece of it. I mean, you can legislate and create laws and policy as much as you like, but I think it also takes an attitude change and an attitude adjustment, and really a sense of personal responsibility and also a willingness to help out that really is going to be what makes the difference.
Well, the balance that we talk about between our economy and our political system sort of plays out in what you just discussed, what you just brought up, which is the balance between individual responsibility and sort of the role of community and the role of how we take care of each other. So, at various times in our history, each party has tried to claim the whole concept of personal responsibility. But I think it's important that we understand that personal responsibility can only be as effective as the community creates opportunities for individuals and preserves those opportunities as well.
Barnstable High School hopes to soon offer improved advanced placement offerings to students. Teachers and administrators are working with the Massachusetts Math and Science Initiative program. At last week's school committee meeting, members discussed the program, which has so far been met with much support and enthusiasm. Barnstable High School currently is one of 26 finalists, hoping to be awarded one of 12 Math and Science Initiative slots. The school committee also discussed some potential changes in the kindergarten and first grade entrance age. Right now, students must be age 5 prior to September 1st to enter kindergarten and age 6 prior to that day to enter first grade, which sometimes does not line up with age requirements if a student attended a separate or private kindergarten or preschool program. Superintendent of Schools Dr. Mary Chakowski has proposed a new policy which involves creating a committee, including herself, Assistant Superintendent Marie McKay, the kindergarten teacher from the student school, and the first grade teacher from the prospective school. The group would review critical data and determine if the child is educationally ready to enter first grade. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.